her back after her mum was done going, well, that's her sorted.
That's just satisfied.
She should be happy enough for enough. That's amazing.
Oh, I'm happy anyway.
That's class. Right, it's 17th of March, Friday. It's
Happy Paddy's Day.
9:15. I actually shouldn't really open the podcast like that because you know what it sounds like? It sounds like announcing someone's death.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like it's Tuesday 9:30.
Yeah.
You know, that's when the machine stops. Not that your loved one. If a doctor calls you up and goes, your dad's dead, and you're like, oh, what time was it at?
What time was that? Yeah.
4:30.
Was it raining?
Yeah. 4:30. He always loved 4:30.
On overcast days.
Overcast. Yeah. What do you think of the lighting setup now?
It's class. It's very sexy. It's very good. It's very unintimidating. I like it.
We had a light situation problem last night. We and I shit you not, I'm not joking this happened. Do you know them rock lamps you get?
Yes.
This house has a really bad problem with electrics. It actually needs to be wired right to run the house. See upstairs and all, you'll move plugs and it goes it's
Taunted.
rough as fuck. It's the ghost of electronics. And Eileen was in the sitting room, I was making steaks, and it was steaks, and she was in the wee rock lamp, was moving it, and it was going dim, and it was fucking like going away. It was all over the place, and we went over. It's like, I said, I smell burning. Where's it coming from? I thought she couldn't hear with the lights going off because we were doing trial.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not in here. And went on the rock lamp, and we were smelling it right beside. I was like, it's the rock lamp. I know the way the lights have the wee middle bits where you can dim it, and stuff. As soon as she touched it, I'm not joking, it went and a spark flew out in fire and the whole house tripped. So Eileen would have been dead, and then we would have had to have her for dinner tomorrow. Yeah. But that's how dead she would have been. Obviously the house tripped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So obviously if it wasn't how she would have been. But I've literally never seen something a fire spark come out and the noise it made as well banged. But it didn't come from the plug. It came from the fucking middle bit.
Yeah.
Never had that before. But
sue the house.
sue the house. Yeah. Are you looking to kill me? It's like poltergeist, fucking bastard house. But really, really scary.
This is well tripped.
I couldn't. And now we have kids in the house, so you know.
Yeah.
And then chess set as well.
Chess set.
3 cameras. Camera 1.
And King Kong.
I can't see them.
Camera 1. Camera 2. Camera 1.
The chess set's always really sophisticated.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how unintelligent guest you have on.
Raises our profile with 10% already.
You know what I mean? It's like check, mate. And forget me like that.
I don't know how to play chess.
You know,
No,
chess is one of the best.
Yeah.
Honestly, you feel like even though if you like me failed all your GCSEs, when you play chess, you feel like some spirit left in me. Some spirit left in me. You know, it's real sophisticated. Do you know that's actually William III?
Really? Like genuinely? No, you made that up. Yeah.
It's King.
I know there's a knight somewhere. Where's the knight?
It's that one.
Oh, right, okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day. And since it's St. Patrick's Day, we thought we would call him King Billy. Well, you don't celebrate it, but we kind of...
No, we have St. David's Day, which is March 1st.
Welsh bastards.
I know, yeah. So we call it the Eisteddfod. So the school basically it's just a chance for us to get all musical and show off the acting and the music and who can play the best instrument.
Is that all it means?
Yeah, well,
no. Who's St. David?
St. David, he was just like a St. Patrick, basically. Of
is he actually from Wales?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's actually
Yeah. St. Patrick's from Wales as well, isn't he?
He's from Wales, yeah.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, I don't understand. I don't mind St. Patrick's Day, right? The problem is, this has come from a real Protestant view, which people's going to be going... But the thing I don't get is the people that celebrate it and you know enjoy it tend to not like Christianity that much. I'm talking about I'm an atheist. I'm like, you brought Christianity to Ireland and you're celebrating Christianity. It's a corrupt world. It's been responsible for thousands of deaths. St. Patrick brings it to Ireland. I fucking love that guy. Raise a pint. You know?
Raise a pint.
That's our Protestant view. I don't know if it's our Protestant view, but it is the community view now. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking it's called Bear Grease double oatmeal stout.
Just to confirm,
because it's Paddy's Day.
Bear Grease.
Bear Grease, and it's 7% by Mourne Mountain Brewery. It's really,
7%
really great.
works all the time. Every time.
60% a day.
Well, I'm on coffee, and I'll be honest, I never liked coffee until prep last year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
like coffee. Couldn't drink coffee.
That kept you going.
Despised it, but I was playing a gig in Dublin, and I remember we were due to go on in a couple of hours, and I walked into the Dublin Key thing, and I remember being really Fuck, it's the dog. He's just got the shit out of me. I thought it was a werewolf outside. Fucking hell. I know, it's happy for his party. He's going to hear, shut up, you fucking dick. All the dog lovers out the front go, no, don't talk to him like that. No, he's a bastard. He's a bad boy. Bad boy. But
why is he outside? That's
I don't know. Outside every day.
That's for next podcast.
365 days a week. Yeah. It was snowing. Guess what? Absolutely, they were outside. Yeah. She came and looked like the abominable snowman. It was all the snow on her. But she looked like she didn't give a shit. Do you know why, people? Because they've got fucking coats. That's why. Unless you're obviously mating and raising a small rat. You know, and majority of them probably are. But I was in the Dublin Quays and I needed to pick me up, and the base was like, why don't you just get a coffee? Black coffee. And I wanted to go black. I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go
crazy.
I'm going to go
full throttle.
Proper thing. And stinking. Horrible. Yeah. But it shot a bullet up my hole.
Right.
And that was great. And I remember going on stage, and it was the first time during prep being so depleted. Yeah. And you know how bad I was doing that. Yeah. First time actually the gig I actually enjoyed. Probably I could say the only gig I enjoyed.
It's like an acquired taste.
It is.
Because
the problem is that
coffee, but
I can only drink with them syrups. And see when you try it with a syrup, it's great. It's basically coffee for children. Yeah. Because you're not manly enough to drink the actual pure cocoa bean, you know, pure from Colombia cocoa bean. Yeah. It's not, tastes like shit. Yeah. So I need Ribena in it.
You need your sweeties.
I'm basically in the same stature as Gimpy vaping. Because
you've got the Elf bar of coffees.
What are you smoking there? It's strawberry daiquiri. And they can't go they can't go into a shop without the thing in their mouth. You know, I can't stand. I don't know why that's an example of an oral fixation. If I see a guy that does that quite a lot, I'll instantly think he wouldn't mind a dick in his mouth. But I instantly think that if you can't, Sam, if you can't go into the spa and queue up for 2 seconds, I mean, if you smoked, you wait to go outside, and I think it's just. See, when it first came out, it was almost the people looked at you in the shop.
Yeah.
What of it?
It's like a status. It's a status. It's like, I can blow smoke in this public building and you can't tell me off. Yeah.
You taste that? Banana.
Yeah.
Prick. So, the podcast today, this is our first one. Well, we did obviously one last time and it was a complete fucking shambles. Yeah. But as far as people's concerned, it's the first one. So, it's about veganism. I don't know what we should call it, veganism, hunting, and environmentalism. Now, to kickstart this off, I thought it was very apt since we're talking about vegans.
Yeah.
I got us.
We brought a vegan in. Oh, roast
T-bone steak.
Thank you so much.
Take that, vegans. Take that, vegans.
Yeah, take that, vegans.
Steak crisps. No, but trust us, we're going to take this from a very middle ground. Unbiased approach. Yeah, it's gonna take your feelings into consideration and your things. No, we're gonna debunk it. But the hunting aspect is very close to Sam's heart because Sam is a hunter. Now, he's not one of the ones you see on Facebook like stand over a lion, you know, with a 50 caliber rifle.
I'm not that rich.
Well, would you do that though?
No, I don't think I would.
That's the only. I think that's the only thing that I will sympathise with the animal lovers. You know, when they share them ones.
Yeah.
And they go, the bastards. And to some degree, I kind of agree because it doesn't feel like proper hunting.
No,
you're not using the land.
They call it canned.
Is that what you call it?
I don't believe in that. Although obviously the license for that would cost in excess of $30,000.
You pay like $4,000.
Yeah. So like that's why Trump's son gets it so bad because he likes to go out there and kill giraffes and lions and things like that.
Don Jr.
Yes, so he's spending $30,000 plus just to be able to kill something. So that's bringing money to the area, so that's good for conservation, but at the same time it's like, why can't you just donate that?
We've got billions of animals, and one of the best hunters, probably the best, probably the best hunter, and then Biden would just sniff the lands. But I do agree with him, and that's it is true, because you're on, there's no conservation, plus if someone drives you up in a Jeep and goes, there it is, I imagine there's not much tracking involved. And if you are, it's probably guided, which also doesn't necessarily feel as admirable.
No.
You know,
this is their territory. This is where they'll be sleeping now. We'll just park the Jeep 20 yards
away. That's it, and it's easy shot, boom,
there
you go.
Yeah.
You might as well just go to target practice in this case.
Exactly. I don't agree with that, but plus as well, it's not a a species in abundance.
That's right. Yeah, 100%.
If there's something that's a nuisance
Yep.
that's everywhere, you go to town on them. But if it's something that's not rarity, but
nuisance. No, it's
there's not too many lions kicking about.
They pitch that going, and fucking gorillas again. Fucking everywhere.
They stop breeding.
Yeah. Sick. Fucking another gorilla. Boom, boom. No, just for the record, obviously we don't
kill gorillas.
We don't chance to find a gorilla in the glen anyway. Unless that one on top of the tree though. No on top of the tree.
Yes, yeah.
The wee man always looks at that way.
Yes, same.
Always gets me to pick him up for some reason. I go, the monster. But no, you're more of a sensible hunter.
Yeah, I don't get challenged on it too much. It takes a real snowflake who's very vague on the subject to try and go toe to toe to me on it, because I'm not just some mindless. People think of hunters and they think you're just a bloodthirsty knuckle dragger, But whereas pardon?
To some degree, you are.
Yeah, I am.
Sure, your nickname is the Night Stalker.
But I can justify it.
He takes animals and women.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I utilise what I take. So my dogs, the type of dogs I have, they go back as far as 5,000 years from
the name of your dog. I was actually telling someone in work about it the other day, because they're talking about their dogs, and I was like, my friend used it for hunting. And I typed in and I found it.
Yeah.
Begins with an S, doesn't it? Though?
So Saluki.
That's what I typed in.
Yes.
That's fine, because obviously it looked like a greyhound, but they got the flappy ears.
Yeah, the flappy ears. Yeah,
Saluki.
So Salukis, they're from the Middle East. There's a few sort of subtypes. There's like a Syrian type. There's a Saudi type.
The Christian ones and the Muslim ones.
Muslim, yeah.
My one's a Muslim one. And you come to the kitchen and it's kneeling down every night. It can only hunt
in the right direction.
It can only hunt certain kosher meat. I'm not killing that fucking thing.
I know. Well, the funny thing about that Salukis is they're typically like a Muslim breed, so they would hunt either free rein, like the hunter will be on a horse or a camel, the dog runs free rein, or they run alongside a falcon.
That's right. So that's right. Because a lot of Middle Eastern hunters used to use. That's right.
So I don't know if it's something to do with the Quran or something, but Salukis need to be soft mouthed. So when they catch a gazelle or hare, whatever it is they're slipped on, they have to just hold it and not damage it, because the hunter has to kill it. And if they damage it, the hunter kills the dog. So something to do with Quran, it's a purity thing. Right. It needs to be the hunter to do that sort of thing. So Salukis are like the long distance runners of the greyhounds. So a Saluki can run 30 mile an hour for 7 minutes in 40 degrees heat in the desert, which no other dog can do on the planet. So they're the long distance runners. So that's why they get bred into the dogs over here for stamina. So typically all I go after is rabbits and hare. If I come across a fox, I'd go after a fox for the dogs would still take that out quickly. But if I get a rabbit, the dogs eat it. So I just gut the rabbit. You gut it so it doesn't pass on worms. And the dogs.
So they then just the outside of it, they mostly the skin.
So they have the fur, the flesh, the bones, everything.
Great.
And that's what they have. And if I have a hare, I have the tenderloin, some maybe the shank, and the dogs eat the rest of that. Yeah. So nothing gets. It's not like they killed this, throw it to the side of the road, take a picture. It's not trophy hunting.
Yeah.
The dogs get to do what they're bred to do, whereas some people's dogs are bred to just you throw a ball for it, and chases the ball. My dogs will look at you like, what's the point of that? The
problem is that a lot of people with dogs these days have dogs that are bred for hunting.
Yeah.
Majority of dogs, a lot of them are. Unless you've got your real, retarded ones like your pugs and all. I can't breathe.
Yeah. A lot of dogs have high prey drives. Yeah.
Yep, and I think I actually think it is a form of animal abuse to actually not fulfill your dog's natural instinct, because you're basically adapting a dog that is bred to do something, and it's burning desire genetically, and its disposition is to want to do that. And you're taking it away from it. And majority of dogs, contrary to popular belief, don't want to be snuggled under a blanket in the bed because it's Halloween and some fireworks are going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't want a ton down their ear from the owner.
Yeah.
You're okay, I'll protect you from the fire.
I'll protect you from the fires, yeah. Well, that's why the dogs tear apart houses and things, because they don't, people walk a dog on a cul-de-sac on a lead, on a pavement, and it's like, that's my dog walk for the day. Oh, he's ripped up the garden again. Oh, he's ripped the kids' toys apart. Oh, he's done this.
He's ripped the kid apart.
Yeah,
Fuck's sake, he must be bored.
Yeah.
He's turned the face. He's just torn the face off my 5-year-old. For fuck's sake.
Kid for good home.
Bored. Well, kid for good home. Yeah. Won't put him back. There's been a few crazy ones. So you had the other day. It was in America last week. An elderly man, 90, was mauled to death by 3 pit bulls, and no one intervened. Everyone just watched. Now there was a video of it. There's a video of it. So people made sure to get it going.
We all will video
and make sure I get this in
police.
4K first.
Yeah.
And then get this. So the police arrived. No one's wanted to be. Now I know people say, "Well, it's 3 pit bulls." I would still have a go. If I say maul someone, I would still get in the middle of them and start kicking.
Yeah.
But no one did anything, which shows a lot about the current culture.
Yeah.
But more importantly,
dogs have feelings.
The police showed up, right?
Yeah.
The police didn't shoot the dogs. Right? The animal right people had to come up and they goes, no, they need to be taken away and humanely dealt with. While they've just mauled a 90-year-old and is potentially eating that bag of flesh right in front of the neighborhood, and the cops like, no, humanely. I mean, and there was another case of that as well. Same thing. It was in America of a pit bull mauling someone, and the same thing. They didn't shoot them on when they got into the scene. There's just stuff like that there that's really and it starts to go into the reality of animals. I mean, there's an instinctual aspect that we really need to know the line between animal and human.
That's it.
And obviously, when you're hunting, you've obviously got public reactions before.
Definitely. There's only been a handful of people I've probably had to block, but they're so incoherent and they're so. You can't explain to them. They're so stuck in their views of what they don't understand.
There was one with a squirrel once. You had to say, shut, wasn't it? Like Bart Simpson.
Oh yeah, what did I do? Yeah, so when I had ferrets, if I would shoot a squirrel, my dog got one yesterday. I got one the day before that, but the ferrets used to eat the squirrels basically. So grey squirrels, you meant to legally kill them on site. It's another thing a lot of people don't know. They just think cute and fluffy.
A grey squirrel.
Grey squirrels. They're American greys for a reason.
No, I suppose we need to.
Yeah.
We need to confirm.
Stipulate that.
Verify that. No,
not red. Grey.
But is that only for the hunter, or if I'm just a normal bystander, does the government sort of expect me going, listen, you should have killed him?
Yeah. Basically, say you if you were feeding one in your garden, you wouldn't be encouraged to do that because it's an alien species. It's not to be here anyway. If you trapped a grey squirrel, say imagine you've got some nice little bird feeders, and you've got your little birds, and then a squirrel comes to us knackering the whole thing. If you trapped it and re-released it, you'd get in excess of a £500 fine.
Really?
Because you've re-released an alien species back into the wild, where it shouldn't be, basically. Okay. So basically you're meant to take them out. So I have a catapult, so legally I'm allowed to take them out. But yeah. And I would feed them when I had ferrets. They would be fed to the ferrets. And I mean, I had 4 ferrets, and I'd come home after feeding them, and the whole pelt would be gone within 12 hours. They'd eat the whole thing.
Hungry
so I'm doing the local ecology a favour.
Yeah.
I'm feeding my animals.
The ecology is the most important bit of it.
Yeah.
I think that's, and we'll get into it later within the environmentalism, but ecology really is a key with the workings of environmentalism, which really isn't understood greatly and isn't appreciated. I think as a society, emotion has now taken over to some degree. Now, I can understand it to some degree. We like to think that animals are you get someone that's maybe sensitive towards animals, seeing Sam with a catapult beating half the skull off of a grey squirrel back from him would probably annoy them to some degree. Yeah. But there is obviously a use for it. So there is a moral argument.
There is a moral argument. And if you, for say every grey squirrel you take out, how many hundreds of nests are you saving? Because a grey squirrel eats a chick alive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it'll go in, so it doesn't just damage trees. And that was the first argument. It's like, it's damaging the trees. It'll eat eggs, it'll eat chicks whilst they're alive. But also with our native reds, grey squirrels carry something called squirrel pox, which only kills the reds. So people used to think, the greys outcompete the reds and they bully them, and they don't. They just bring a disease into the area that kill all our natives.
Sounds a lot like the Europeans.
Yeah.
America.
Yeah, basically, yeah. They're a plague like we're a plague in America.
Well, it's funny when the American are, because they're like, they shouldn't have went over there. And it's like, but you love the grey squirrels. You know what I mean? It's different when animals migrate. It's different. Yeah. But when humans do it, it's different. You know what I mean? I suppose there's a hypocritical argument. Although I obviously don't want to get into that rabbit hole, because people be like, are you really comparing the Europeans like Columbus to grey squirrels?
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, hunting is, I think it is just a generation that is a lot softer towards it now. Back, you work 9 to 5 to pay someone else to do your hunting for you. That's the best way you probably describe working full time, isn't it? 9 to 5. Yeah. You're literally exchanging your time to pay someone else to do your hunting, because if you weren't working, everyone would be out competing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think now, because of how heavily that's went over, the generation is a lot softer now. Oh, yeah. And they do not see that face to face of really, and also they don't understand the imbalances of an ecosystem very gently. You know, you animals, a lot of the time, the reason why animals go extinct, contrary to popular belief, people think it's to do with us. It's not. It's tend to do with animals themselves. Yeah. You know, you get grazers coming in, they outgraze the whole place, they eat it too much of the grass, and then it fucks up the other species, and then they kick it. You know, species are constantly doing that and competing. A lot of hunting is actually conservation. You know, a lot of the sanctuary setup is actually us intervening to try to keep species alive. So it's, sometimes it's the opposite. You know, as you would already know. Obviously, I don't know what your degree of effect is down the glen slingshotting the grey squirrels, but every piece of the puzzle.
But there'll probably be, there'll be less damage to the trees, and there'll be more nests that are affected for the coming spring. This spring, the more they take out. I know Yanto, one of my dogs, him by himself, he's caught 8 so far, just on that little glen there.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, my 2 dogs almost caught one. And I did hold her, and I seen the grey squirrel across the path, and I was like, wait, go. I wanted to see how good she did. Yeah. And she did lock onto, to be fair, but the wee bastard ran up the tree. And a part of me, that fat fuck out there's no way she'd catch anything. I mean, she's it's supposed to be elk hounds or whatever you call them, but there's no way she's taking down a slater. She's not hunting insects, for fuck's sake. Useless. But the other one, there's a wee bit of fire in her belly. I reckon she would go for it. But I always love the idea of actually hunting. I think it's a very masculine thing to do.
It's just a whole feeling of utilising every bit of it. Like I said, for when I had ferrets, say my dog got a hare, I said I'd have the shank, I'd have the tenderloin. That was my choice bits. Dogs would have the waist meat. They'd have the kidneys, liver, heart. Everything else the ferrets would eat. Not a single bit would go to waste. And that, I think that's class.
Well, it's exactly how dogs were domesticated, evolved with wolves. Wolves started coming in. They say it was a group of wolves that lost a stress protein in one of their cells, and there was a group of wolves that were less afraid to come closer to the camps. And obviously they started eating scraps. And as they slowly got more comfortable, they pretty much exchanged their freedom for a steady meal. Essentially. And then that's how dogs started coming. They breed it. And then the first sort of breed of dogs essentially hunted the wolves that bit the hand to feed. So that's why. So vegetarians and vegans, they'll make the argument for eating animals. So they say any animal is murder. Right now we'll get into this. I obviously disagree. I think farm animals are very different. For example, you're not going to relate. If after tomorrow, if after tomorrow we're gonna decide to end agriculture, we're just gonna release a million cows into the wild. I mean, they'll be dead overnight. You know what I mean? So you're kind of supporting the eradication of actually a species. Technically, of all farm species. But dogs are the only ones I would say. China kills dogs and eat them. That's not a bias because we have dogs. The only reason I would be against it is because it's the only animal that's been closely connected to us from such a long period of time. That we domestically evolved not to eat, but to help us hunt. And B,
companionship and that.
Go by the record.
What's upsetting about that is the way it's done. You know, boiled. I
remember seeing a video once. Yeah, I remember seeing a video once. It was just coming into this like it was just a conveyor belt basically. There was a guy in the hand with like a machete basically, and he beat his head and did everyone, and they just kept coming for the conveyor belt. I hope he's enjoying this conversation. And he just boom boom, and they just kept chopping on. And I remember I said it was quite rough.
It's the manner of it. It's just there's no dignity in that. Like
I do like I said, I do sympathise for vegetarians, veganisms. And veganisms, it's vegans.
Vegans, vegan.
Are you one of them veganisms?
Yeah.
Are you a veganism?
Vegan organisms?
Are you a veganism organism? Are you an organism basically do you take some potassium? Well, my dad worked in a slaughterhouse.
Yes, yeah.
I've told you before. And
but it was very strict, and that's where I wasn't.
Yeah, it is.
Glued up
so
on.
They are there's a lot of regulations, and I remember my dad when he was alive telling me that, when the cattle and stuff and the cows and the sheep came round, in every slot, you had 7 different, obviously, what would you call it? Like stable bits, cubicle bits. There was a vet at the end of each one, and they watched how everyone was done to make sure it was done humanely.
Yeah.
So usually the first one was bolted to the head straight away, and usually most of them didn't stress out that. Contrary to popular belief, where people think that they know straight away and they can smell it. Yeah. Apparently, most of them couldn't, because the way they designed it was blocked out, so they didn't know what they were to, and it's very quick. Bolt to the head stuns them, and then you slit their throat.
Yeah.
One day, a group of guys didn't do it right. So one guy bolts, the other one slits the throat. Anyway, so my dad used to slit the throat, whatever, and it wasn't done correctly one day. The bolt and slit the throat, and it was a lamb, I think it was, and it was running around the whole place, and blood going everywhere, and there was 6 guys involved in it, and straight away called the office. They were let go. That's how serious it is. It's not something like it's taken very seriously. He did say it was a really well paid job. He said that you got cheap steaks in the canteen, like
I'm sure you did.
60p a steak. Big fries in the mornings.
Oh wow!
Like 10-20p a fry. Like now obviously, if you're in the business of just about bags of meat and flesh. I'm sure there's a lot of perks to it. But when he softened up the last 10 years of his life, I remember him saying that he couldn't do it again. I remember him saying that he goes, his whole mindset changed. Got 2 dogs, and I think he just said that he couldn't imagine being bad to an animal. I think that. So there may be a slight hormonal explanation for this. The people that have no issues killing an animal may be just a little more stoic and a little more hormonally beneficial, and to that. Because a masculine man probably wouldn't have an issue. No. Someone that's a bit more emotional, maybe more estrogen, probably would hit them more. And I don't know if there's any scientific fact behind this, but someone when you get older with maybe low testosterone drive, that's maybe why my dad got softer. Because older guys tend to get a wee bit softer. My dad was a hard man. But as he got very laid back, very and I think maybe just because then he's just obviously every meal when they age become a defeated meal almost. You start to slouch over more, you get a bit depressed, unless obviously you're injecting
more time to think, more time to think through.
Unless you're injecting testosterone into your balls. I won't let that happen, trust me. See, when I hit 40, see if I'm going downhill, I'll go in gear. I'll be 50-year-old, I don't care, I'll go. That's how I want to die. I want to go in. People say, I don't want to...
Geared up.
Yeah, geared up. And people say, it's better to burn out than fade away, which I always think is a really gay quote.
It's a real rock star quote, no?
It's Kurt Cobain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then again, it could be fucking Einstein.
He was because every meme. Though, so yeah.
I know. It's better to ban it, fade away, shock under the head. It's like, I won't take your advice. That's if it was him. Oh, could have been Courtney Love.
Yeah, well, she's as doolally as.
No, she was. Yeah. Fuck. If you looked at the documentary, that seemed to be there was real fucking issues there. No, but so the main thing, though, in terms of information that we can give, would be the nutrition. So I think we'll tackle the nutrition aspect of vegetarian and veganism first, because it would make more sense. So we can obviously argue the statistics and facts and moral arguments for it, but it's not really going to help anyone if they're like, well, I don't give a shit what you're saying. Yeah. I still think it hurts animals, and I'm okay, right? But you also train, right? Let's see if there's
so much you're shooting yourself in the foot
with that. I think so.
Yeah.
So You're instantly at a disadvantage. Yeah. That's probably the clearest thing to say. If you are a vegetarian, you're at a slight disadvantage. I'd say you're at a disadvantage for yourself, not a slight disadvantage.
If you're vegan,
you're at a fucking disadvantage.
Yeah, and I was thinking before, like, you know, as a brand new PT, was one of my first ever clients who was vegan. I found myself just thinking, apart from talking about lentils and chickpeas and protein bars, protein drink, I really didn't have any advice. You know, it was just like,
because things
so
get
awkward.
But it's not just what vegans would say is it's a lack of understanding of nutrition.
Yeah.
I don't agree necessarily, because there is limitations. Yeah. By its very essence, it's limiting. Why? Because you're taking a massive grips of food out of your arsenal. Yeah. So you're only allowing yourself an X amount. Now, the back and forth, a mediator would say, you see, we can get amino acids from meats. And a vegan would say, well, I get something like that. And there's things I get from a plant you can't get. Now, back to that would be, well, you know, I'm not a fucking carnivore.
Yeah.
I eat vegetables as well, you know what I mean? Yeah. With my meat.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not just, now, I for the record, the carnivores out there, I think are fucking a bit dim.
Yeah.
Well. It's like I think
that you're a pussy if you don't eat that meat.
Like, I only eat a chicken on a leg. Yeah, liver king, eating a liver. Brilliant. Yeah. Right, yeah. Sorry, it says here you're on a huge amount of growth hormone. Yeah. Right, yeah. You've missold your group. Yeah.
And test.
Do you know, I think it's actually more idiotic that there was a group of people that actually believe going,
actually test, bull's testicles, and then, you know, I look like
the man had. You really need to educate the masses more on how to actually tell a snake oilsman.
Yeah,
I fucked that up.
Yeah,
snake salesman.
Snake salesman. Yeah, you know what I mean? The GH belly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You need to. I think you need to educate these people. Going, that's a charlatan.
Yeah.
He's not natural because, like you and I, when you are in the natural spheres, there's a certain look to natural bodybuilders. Yeah. They have a certain look about them, and then when you go to the different regions where it's untested,
but it's like transparent skin, there is a belly.
There is a 9 day, unless you're like James,
our coach. Who was our coach? Who was a genetic prodigy.
But them freaking ages are 1 in a million. I mean, they're real evolutionary mutations. Actually, you know, it's like when the polar bear lost its. They say the brown bear in Arctic, one polar bear born had a pigment scale turned white. It was a mutation. But some mutations, obviously, evolutionary basis is actually, mutations are good when you're cutting the DNA over, and it obviously made it much more efficient because it was white and it could camouflage, and then because it was more successful, it made it more. Now I've got polar bears, brown bears went up north. So that's James. The mutation. The mutation was your son will have legs the size of a prehistoric triceratops, and that's how he prospered. Yeah. But what the fuck was I talking about there? I can't stop thinking about his legs now. So in terms of the nutrition facts, so you are severely disadvantaged. Now, it's a hard pill because you could probably do it, right? Now, I still think regardless you're disadvantaged, but you could probably compete to some degree. But you really need to know your shit. Yeah. You would actually probably need to be almost very trained in nutrition.
Oh, you need to be. You know,
it's not good enough just go on YouTube and go, look, I've found these 4 recipes. Yeah. But I had a few people I was talking before. I had a vegetarian once. And it was very limiting. Now, the problem was that, so there's some good things. So you've got pea protein, for example. One of the second best whey proteins out there, protein shake you would take is your first one, a normal whey protein has high absorption rates. Although they argue one of the second best is actually pea protein because the way it passes your gut and intestine is actually a bit more efficient. Now, they only say that's handy when you've maybe went on to animal whey for a long period of time and you maybe switching it off to give your gut a bit of break. You know, when you take a lot of protein shakes, you end up shitting the walls. Yeah. So pea protein is actually quite efficient for that. It's actually not bad. Yeah. So there is actually an element where, if a vegetarian or vegan, pea protein. That's... But then when you come to food, it gets a wee bit sketchy. The reason why it gets the problem is it's actually due to absorption rates. Yeah. And that's the problem. So I think people get confused when it comes to protein. So every vegan and vegetarian I've talked to, they always say, where do you get your protein from? They go, I eat a lot of nuts. Like, nuts are not for protein. They're for their fat. And while nuts do have a small amount of protein in them, if you wanted to even hit your bare minimum cap for the day, you would have to consume a ridiculous amount of nuts to the point where you would be well over in a caloric surplus, well over, and your fat weight would be extremely high. Now,
and you have no energy.
You have no energy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no way your system would be able to run efficiently on. It's a backup. If you're not running on carbs, in my opinion, you are essentially running on a backup generator. You know what I mean? Carbs is very important. Now, I actually found a source to this. They actually did. There's a credit from a prestigious. This is very professional.
Prestige worldwide.
Right? Prestige worldwide. Every time I come, I produce a quart. So, I got a source about that. Actually, they did very close studies on nuts.
Okay.
Now, this is from the National Library of Medicine. Sound official yet?
Sounds official.
Are you shaking?
Where's the ethyl paper?
Right now, you're probably thinking, going, fuck, he's going to school us.
Yeah.
It's from the National Library of Medicine. But they did so the first one they did was, I even printed this out. Pay me. So, walnuts and almonds. 2 examples. Additionally, the energy they contain is not efficiently absorbed, accounting for the limited impact they have on energy balance. A recent in vitro study showed that more than 90% of the nutrients from pistachios are released in the gastric compartment. Hence, pistachios appear to be more structurally degraded during the digestive transit and therefore would exhibit a greater nutrient loss than walnuts and almonds. There is now convincing evidence that the internal structure of nuts, oil droplets, protein bodies can be retained to a greater or lesser extent during the digestion and can variably hinder or augment digestion and absorption. The layman's terms, you only absorb about 40% protein from a nut. Oh. So even if you are trying to consume 3,000 calories a day of nuts, half your protein from that, So it's clearly, while nuts is very, very great food source to use, it's not for protein. It's for fats. Us as bodybuilders, when we use nuts, we don't go, we protein snack. We go, it's for fats, natural fats. That's what we use them for.
Apart from that, you're just a keto farting mess, really.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But then again, you tell someone, you got a client. I had a client once, and he was going great, and I had him in the most basic strength plan, and he was new to the gym, more or less, and he was making good gains. I had simple enough progression strength, like the heavy duty sort of approach, simple, and he was enjoying it. Then he went on to YouTube. Now, technically, you're watching this on YouTube. Now, every other YouTube channel is bollocks, bar this one. He got down the rabbit hole. So he found all these ideas, intermittent fasting, keto. And the next 2 months, while he's making the progress, came to me and goes, I think I'm going to do the keto now. It's probably, seems to be the best results. And I was telling him, just stick to this.
Yeah.
The program will come. And he goes, no, I want to do keto. And then he stopped with me. He had all these new program and exercise he's seen online. He wanted to try and do it on his own, which is fine.
And now he's dead.
He will be.
He will be.
He fucking will be. He stopped an income for me. Yeah. You want to feed? Yeah. You want to do that again? Come feed my kids. Yeah. But he lost basically everything now. Yeah. He lost any progress he had, and now he doesn't train half to what he does, and now he's back to just eating normally again. And it was trying to get through going, you're complicating it for no reason. Yeah. Now, vegan and vegetarianism, there's 2 grades. You probably know the ones that do it for animals. It's the animals. Now, I actually don't mind that. What about you? I don't. I can somewhat sympathise.
I don't mind that, but I like to pry them and say, in what way?
Yeah.
I just want to see if they can back it up.
Yeah. No, but emotionally. Yes, if they're emotionally it mostly affects women.
Yeah.
And if it affects a guy, you're like, softy.
Fruit.
Getting some stores in. Getting fruit. Yeah, fruit. Get fruit. You're probably going, I love fruit.
I love fruit.
Yeah. That's my main meat, fruit. And couscous.
And bananas.
And couscous. Couscous. There's a vegan beside me before in work, and that's all he ate, couscous. And I remember him telling me he wouldn't drink milk. I was like, why do you drink milk? The cow needs to be milked. And he's like, they basically raped the cow. I'm like, they raped the cow. They literally just go on a wee insemination.
Yeah.
And that's it. Horny rape. And if they're in the wild, do you think when a bull comes up to the cow, goes, can I get to know you a wee bit?
Yeah.
Before I mount you and literally stick my 20-inch cock in you, do you want to go for a coffee? Yeah. You know what I mean? People would just go, fuck you, I don't care. Next. That's what it does.
Yeah.
Most animals do that.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think a fish courts? Now, they will do the wee dance.
They'll do that, yeah.
But most of the time, it's probably the female going, don't touch me, and the mate's going, you're getting raped.
Yeah.
Majority of animals, there's an element probably of rape involved. But it's disingenuous to say it's rape. It's like what we think the humans are raping the cow. It's literally just pop, and that's it. It needs to be milked, and you milk it. That's it. And they were bred for that purpose. And eat. And
they wouldn't be alive if it wasn't used for that. They would not exist.
What's contrary to that? I don't want that to happen anymore. Okay, so do you want a cow as a pet?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? Haven't you living with?
Adopt a cow.
Adopt a cow, yeah. I'm surprised you don't see that.
Yeah.
£3 a month can adopt a cow. Yeah. Well, you're paying for your kid in Africa with, I've been paying £60 a year into this and he's still got flies around him. Got that one.
Edit. Bought.
Fuck. Demonetized. YouTube shit. But yeah, so I would say the nutrition aspect, it is the absorption rates. Now, a little thin on meat. Someone could probably fact check me on this. I'm speaking roughly here, but I believe chicken's around 80% absorption. Red meat's about 90%.
It's connective tissue. It just takes longer
to
digest, so you're gonna absorb more from it.
Well, it's also simple mathematics and science and energy conversion. The animals that graze, our veg animals, they have to graze all day basically. If we want to get the same energy efficient from that, we'd have to pretty much graze 24/7. The thing is with vegans and vegetarianism is they would literally have to do that all the time if they didn't have the kind of structure of capitalism we have, where they make vegetarian and vegan meats much more accessible now. Because if you were going to gather that, you would just spend all day doing that. You would do nothing else. You would literally just have to pick nuts all day and fruit, and you would have to just to run basic body functions. Whereas if we went out for 8 hours, brought a bison back from the tribe, we could probably have a rest for a couple of days.
Exactly.
So there is an evolutionary benefit to it, but I think the main thing is if you're doing it for animal emotional purposes, that's fine. Know that you are probably still at a disadvantage, and you're probably going to need to work a bit harder, training wise, in terms of nutrition. But then it's the other side where they'll go to the environment. That's probably the worst one. I dislike, because it's almost so up yourself to think, well, you're killing the environment. I'm making a difference. It's like you don't realize that every choice you make has an imbalance somewhere. And it's up to some greedy corporation and mass land somewhere else in a foreign country that you don't care about to obtain your goods for you, which also creates a massive imbalance to the ecosystem and the ecology of that system. It's not difficult. It's really not difficult.
No.
And you speak
about this. That was a brilliant bit you said there. You need to really make sure we can take that bit out there.
Can't remember what I said there.
That was that got a tear in my eye.
One thing I was really good at, and that's why I got the job I'm in at the minute.
Yeah.
I know nothing about IT. The reason I got the job is I remember looking at the HR person dead in the eye a lot and just doing that. And then Jennifer going, what the fuck did I just say there? I must have just rhymed off YouTube somewhere. And the next day, you've got the job. And then too late to you'd have to put me down now to get me out of the place, You've got a crap worker. But you mentioned that before with conservation. I think with
I think I mentioned Ted Nugent when he was on the podcast with Joe Rogan, and Ted Nugent's obviously rock star, but his back garden is probably about 1,000 acres of pristine hunting land, which is his little playground. And he was saying how he'd been challenged by vegans before, because I think he did an MTV Cribs, and he's like, come see my downstairs, and it was crossbow gun.
Oh yeah.
Central, and he got a lot of hate, and he was basically saying, look, if you're going to be a little vegan fruit, all this stuff about this is grown here and blah blah blah. He says, see all the pesticides and all this stuff that's put down. There's a lot of animals dying. For you to produce your little nut.
There's herbivores in the surroundings you have to get wiped out. As well, and then obviously insects as well.
Exactly.
Which the problem is that when they say, "Oh, what's insects?" It's like.
But then what birds eat that? They get eaten by that. Affects the whole food chain.
But why is insects not? You know what I mean? It feels like a lot of the argument for the not killing of animals comes simply down to how cute it looks. Because an insect is effectively a living creature. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't matter if you take a large animal like a farm animal. One of the main reasons that you probably argue this, but it's to do with consciousness, right? animals don't have a consciousness, not in the idea that we think.
No.
Now, pet owners do like to think, oh, my dog has a conscience. It loves me. It's like, unfortunately, it drives off instinct. My partner said a really good point. We were talking about the instinctual thing the other night, actually, arguing this. And I was trying to actually rationalize in my head, going, well, what would be a good argument example? Now, consciousness is the human form. The famous quote from Descartes, I think it is, it's, I think, therefore I am.
Yeah.
An animal can't really do that. Now, people say, well, prove it. Well, she made a good point. She was like, an animal doesn't kill themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A human does. That's a consciousness. Because as soon as the existentialism creeps in and you start to think about, my body interacts with the surroundings, and I'm a being, but I'm much more than just the sums of my parts and my cells. I'm a thinking creature, and I have effects from all night. That's when the existentialism creeps in, and you think to yourself, fuck, I should kill myself. And I'm going to still do that because it's instantly of instinct. That's the argument for, you would say, kill limits.
That's what I've been challenged for when they're, regards to fox hunting or hare coursing. They go, that animal's terrified. It's so terrified, and you sicko, you with your dogs, you run that terrified animal. I said, no, it's run by stimulus. So can you explain to me then why this terrified animal that's run through a fence stops and watches to see if my dog will jump the fence? Now, if that animal was terrified, it would run off into the sunset and knock back.
Yeah.
Why does it stop?
So does it?
Stop? Yeah, it stops. So when they go to the poor fox, you make out that the fox is dead in 10 seconds. No, it runs for hours. It's run by stimulus, Yeah. It would stop. As soon as it doesn't hear hounds, it'll stop to have a mooch about, see what it can kill itself, It's run by stimulus. So that's why you're right. It doesn't have a consciousness.
The problem with the argument is that, and I obviously can't assume viewpoints and opinion points, but most vegan and vegetarianisms tend to have similar views across the board for things. And that's completely fine. Right-wingers tend to have similar views across the board. Left-wingers do as well. We already know this. But for vegans especially, they would... Now, I know this is completely off topic, but it's an example with the consciousness thing. You shouldn't kill an animal because it's a living creature and has a conscience. That's what their viewpoint is. But when it comes to abortion, I know, man. Oh, no, the kid inside the womb, it doesn't have a conscience. So it's not a living thing. It's very different now.
Yeah,
right, okay.
Yeah.
And it's, okay, so why does it have a conscience? It reacts to, you can literally... It's well documented that a kid will kick you inside it will react to certain sounds. It will react to music. It will react to the food you eat, certain foods. It's been shown now with taste foods that they react in certain ways. And the thing is, as well, is a kid at a young age is technically not conscious. It's conscious, but it's not aware. It can't think yet.
Yeah.
So is the argument to you can abort a 2-year-old? Because my 2-year-old and my 1-year-old, I'm pretty sure they're not sitting going, fuck, I'm a baby. Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm so... Jesus, fuck. and this is such a fascinating world. They can't even really... they're essentially kind of based on hardwired genetic responses at the minute. So I don't think the argument kind of stands for the conscious bit. And we know animals don't. And my brother, me and my brother used to argue in this, he liked to think that animals had like emotion. I don't think that. Now, I know there's images of dogs maybe crying and but that can be a multitude of things, because there's also studies of a dog eating its owner when it dies if it's stuck in the house. So, and then obviously when the dog's going to pack mentality, everything goes out the window.
So my dad, when he was in a very high rank in the police, and the amount of times they'd had to break into a house where owner's deceased, and there's the Alsatian, still well fed, because for 2 weeks he's eating entrails and everything. He's eating the whole owner. Is that a disobedient, unfaithful, evil dog? No, it
needs to.
It needs to. What do you expect?
That's the only thing with it, and we'll get into the environmental arguments soon. I don't want to, because I think the environmental argument, there's a lot to talk about it. I do think we've kind of ticked off. I think we've got a point across quite clearly for the moral argument of animals.
Yeah.
I think when you use the term murdering, there needs to be a lot of context to that. I mean, murder, again, it depends. I know technically the thing is a living creature, but the majority of animals will wipe you out regardless of anyone themselves. And again, we have bred farm animals for a specific reason. And our evolutionary makeup and genetic accelerated because of meat consumption. That's another really far-out myth that people think that it was mostly vegetables. It was actually the belief that the brain capacity and power evolutionary exacerbated and accelerated for Homo sapiens because of the consumption of meat. It was actually the ability also to cook it, because it opened a lot of nutrients. That's why eating raw meat's not too effective. As soon as you cook it, getting access to nutrients, that allowed amino acids, high levels of protein, allowed more efficient people that could go for longer, and then increased brain function and power. So we know that meat's superior in that sense. Yeah. And I'm not saying don't eat vegetarian vegan meals, but like anything, a balanced diet. We are omnivores. We're not herbivores, we're not carnivores. We are a mixed creature.
But there's a point there as well. Remember how the more westernized we are, the more suddenly we just want to be herbivores. Because I was chatting to you before about a client of mine, youth pastor in a church, taking her youth group to Moldova, probably one of the most poorest areas in Europe. And there was quite an entitled so-and-so in the group from a very privileged family.
Was it your client or someone, just someone in the group?
It was my client who was heading the group
to go to
Moldova.
Right.
And within the youth group, they're all fine and dandy, but there was one who was like, whatever the trend was, she was that. She identified as vegan.
Everyone identifies their own identity these days. Doesn't matter anyway. There's no such thing as identity now. It's just whatever you say.
It's whatever you say. And she had to take her aside and just say, look, if I let you come to Moldova, veganism doesn't exist in Romania. It doesn't exist. So there's going to be a family you'll live with who's going to have a pot of stew or whatever they're making, and they go in without a little bit just to feed you. So don't turn up with your little ideals of what you feel. Veganism doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's here in America.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet. Okay? So you're going to shut up and eat the soup whilst her screaming baby's crying because they're going without food. Okay? So I thought that's an amazing point.
That's
because, great. I just think it's a westernized idea. And when have I...
A lot of the concepts...
When have I gone to Turkey? When have I gone to Greece? And I've gone all-inclusive hotel and I'm in the queue for the buffet. I've yet to see someone who has a cocktail and a fag in either hand going, and where's the vegan option?
Yeah,
why are you looking at... You're to save the planet. Where's the vegan option?
A goat's head in a soup.
Yeah. It doesn't exist. So that's why I think it's a Western idea.
A lot of new concepts of Western ideas. Now, obviously, we're not going to talk about, identity politics and the wave of genderism and stuff, but it's quite clear that there are Western concepts as well, because we do not see that kind of replicating itself through, especially more very traditional countries or very, land-embedded countries like Africa, where they're very much live off the land.
Yeah.
They do not have that concept whatsoever. No. And I think that being in a Western civilization, that's the only civilization that you'll have the opportunity to be vegetarian or vegan. Yeah. You have the opportunity. You will not have the opportunity in the majority of other countries. No. So the one way as a vegan to criticize the structure of the system, going, this is a very oppressive system, and it's like, well, it allows you to do what you want to do, and allows you to be a vegan, which you wouldn't have the opportunity anywhere else, and you wouldn't have that virtue, which I think a lot of it can be boiled down to virtue. Which, to be honest, though, from them, not eating meat for life will be quite difficult. Fair play, but then again, you doing it doesn't benefit me in any way. You do it, I'm like, do you know, I feel so much better. Knowing that he doesn't eat meat. Actually, I do.
It's because my conscience.
Yeah, there's more for me.
Yeah.
That's probably why. But then you've got now the vegan bodybuilders.
Sponsor. I can see the sponsored ads already.
The rolled eyes. Fuck me, vegan bodybuilders. You've got a guy that clearly. I'll give you the breakdown of any time you see a vegan bodybuilder, right? So see, for anyone out there that thinks that vegan bodybuilders are legit. Now, do you agree with this?
I agree with you already.
Yeah, right.
I can see the ads already. Yeah. Just sort of like, I look like this because I did this for 8 weeks.
That's right, yeah. I only ate corn from the field for 24 hours a day.
I did trend for 12 years.
There's one, it's very simple. One, genetics. Maybe they're a bit more bigger than usual. Now, they would already be a bit stocky, right? Yeah. B, they weren't always vegan.
Yeah.
That's probably the key.
Yeah.
C,
they run out of money.
Fucking lying. That's a key one. They're fucking lying.
Yeah.
Why are they lying? They're selling vegan supplements. That's why they're lying. If you're selling a vegan supplement, it wouldn't really make sense going, listen, I eat meat personally. This vegan someone might be okay. Veganism for bodybuilding works, but fuck it, I don't eat it. I eat steak.
Yeah.
And then I'd say the last one, here.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you look at a lot of them and you go, well, yeah, that's quite obvious because, again, he's got veins coming down from his traps all the way down to his farms.
Yeah.
Again, we need to educate people more on their heroes, on, their fitness influencers.
Yeah.
Really going, okay, he may be impressive, but, he's not exactly like you because you're not injecting more substance into your body.
Exactly.
So there is a big difference. And vegan bodybuilders in the industry, I had someone on my social media, I won't name the name, ages ago into training, and they were vegan and they were obsessed with vegan bodybuilding, and they would post all the time about it to make points to say, see, you don't need meat. And I just can't help but think and go, yeah, the people you post, none of which are competitors. Yeah. They're all like low grade, like fitness influencers gym. Now, they may look good, but again, from all the last 4 points I've just listed, might not be completely legit.
Yeah.
No offense, you're not going to the Olympia and going, and it's Greg, the vegan bodybuilder. You never see that.
Never ever.
And that's probably because they have nutrition coaches going, by the way, see this whole hype of veganism? Fuck that. Rum steak in the morning, rum steak at night.
Yeah.
Rum steak, feed your kids rum steak, get it fucking in them, you know what I mean?
I don't, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You actually probably should, you said you had, your first client was vegetarian.
First time was...
You said the first PT client you had was vegetarian, wasn't it? Was that the first client?
I think the first one was the first one vegan? I'm not sure.
Right, but you were saying about you didn't know how to obviously recommend for food, right? So in some way, right, you should charge them fucking more.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is quite awkward for me, right? When I was actually going here, so it's fine. You're vegan, yeah, but £10 extra an hour.
Yeah. It makes life.
But it does. If I went to James Gym Prep and I said, yeah, James, nutrition, any allergies? No allergies, no. I just can't consume 90% of the food groups out there.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Right.
Because of the planet.
Because of the planet. Yeah.
Animals have feelings.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that, right? Because we'll get to that. We'll fucking get to that.
Yeah.
Because, animals have feelings. I'll tell you, before we
They do. But put it this way: if someone wanted to come to me for coaching, for prep, and they said, by the way, I'm this, that, and the next, I say, okay, well, then I'll bring Joanne on board, who's like my sort of nutritionist other half, and it's 120 quid a month just to babysit you. And do you want, because you're a vegan now, it's probably double that. Yeah. Because you've made everyone's life 10 times harder.
Yep,
and what's your reasons? The environment. Oh, can you elaborate on that? No. Okay.
Look at this guy. Look, it's so much clearer.
Yeah, because
so
of animals.
When you're walking outside.
Yeah.
Fucking, that's so much clearer.
Yeah.
Jesus. That smog is not there anymore.
No.
Now there is cruel bastards.
Oh yeah.
We're not gonna. There was a guy on. It was on the radio there when I was coming to get you, and it was in. I don't know if it was England, Northern Ireland, but they found he had a bulldog, like a pit bull. It was partially buried in the forest. People partially buried alive, and it was beaten severely by him. And then they obviously had to euthanize it eventually because of his injuries. They went into this house and there was 2 other dogs that got removed from him for serious neglect. So I don't know what the fuck he was doing.
People like that need shot.
100%. Yeah. It says a lot about the person. I remember you telling me about a story. Your dad found the local sort of country path psychopath.
Yeah.
He was 14, 15, he killed a fucking sheep.
He was using half breeze blocks to kill ewes and lamb. So my dad was still in the job at the time. My dad was like Terminator.
Have you seen this boy?
Yeah, have you seen this boy?
Yeah. He kills fucking sheep.
Yeah. So my dad jumped the Rylock fence and went after him, chased him about half a mile, and the guy tried to go through a river thinking my dad won't follow. My dad spear tackled him in the river and he walked him. I just remember seeing my dad walk past the house and he had him by the neck like that. There's this big lanky, so 15, 16-year-olds, and he walked him to his father's house and just sort of threw him at the father's feet and says, that thing has just killed all my neighbours' sheep for fun. I'm superintendent, blah, blah, blah. What are you going to do with that? And the father beat the crap out of his own son. And he says, John will be up soon because you can pay him for all the animals that's just killed. And if he wants to press charges, I hope he does. He says, but what's that about, sort of thing,
And so the dad's reaction was to just keep hitting him.
Yeah.
Still talking to your dad.
Rightly so, right.
So, absolutely. Yeah. No, don't you worry. Listen, I'll see to this. Don't worry. Strangle. I'll see to this. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, don't close it on the way out.
Yeah, people like that need.
Parents very different. No, it's back then.
Yeah.
Parents would would happily take the criticism.
Yeah.
Now it's very hard to find a parent to take that kind of criticism.
Yeah.
They will not. It's like, no, my kid will never. And that's how you create little dictators.
Yes.
The only other time I remember, remember my dad telling me again, which probably would have been the closest story to animal abuse, which I've told you before, was when he killed a dog with a snooker cue. But to be fair, this dog did seem like a community nuisance. Every time he walked to work at 7:30 in the morning, this thing, obviously the gate was open in the driveway, would run out, woo, teeth fucking slabbering, slabbers everywhere, eyes red as the fire of Hades, and would run out and attack him every morning. He would sprint down.
The dog,
and if you're a grown man, you have to run away from a dog every morning. It gets a bit embarrassing after a while. And I think my dad, after a month, this was happening every morning, and he was getting really sick of it. And one morning he decided it was in a snooker club, so he had his own snooker cue. So I remember he said one morning, he goes, fuck this, it was 7:30 in the morning, he unscrewed the thing with his work bag as lunch, one snooker cue in the hand, because in those days in the shanky you could get away with walking around with a snooker cue. Right now you'd be going, what the fuck's he doing with a snooker cue? You could pull over, they're going, fuck, going to play snooker after work, what's with you? So this morning, same thing, 7:30, whoa, boom, he smacked the fucking thing 3 times around the head, and it went, and it ran in. He said he didn't see the thing afterward, so he's pretty sure he killed it. The thing never came out again, or unless the owner obviously opened the door and was like, the thing had a beaten in skull. But I'm pretty sure he said the thing didn't really move when it went in. It really limbered in, so I think he probably killed it. But in fairness, if a dog is going to attack you, you kind of don't really know what the motives of that. I mean, a dog could kill you in essence. More so if there's probably a pack of them, but if you want to talk about self-defense, that's probably the one of the main fucking rule of thumbs for self-defense. I couldn't think of a better rule of thumb actually for self-defense. You know what I mean?
Fighting off a pack.
I don't know about a snooker cue, but the environmentalism. So, I think it is important to kind of talk about that because that's where a lot of it comes from, and being in the modern era right now of climate change, it's a really hot issue, and the incessant need to change our lives for some betterment that we can't essentially see. And that's actually a fair point I would say to everyone, is these doomsday apocalypse, they talk about the coral reefs are down, the Arctic is melting. It's funny that everything that they say that's down, it's nothing that the normal person can go verify for themselves. It's always only a small team of government-funded scientists that constantly get funded every year to go over, but I'll say no more.
David Attenborough's the spokesman.
David Attenborough, while he's on the helicopter, he's like, and this thing, we're in the middle of the forest. Okay, stop. Okay, get me back to this fucking hotel here. I've got a rum steak waiting. But they talk about saving the planet. Right? I have issues with that already. Like, first of all, does the planet need saving? If climate change plays out its full course, the planet's still going to be here. Now, humans may be, dispositioned by countless bits, but humans are very good at one thing: mitigating. They're quite good at they're not good at mitigating. They're not good at preparing. They're good at dealing with things as it comes straight to their face. They're not really too good at pre-planning, but they're really good at like adapting there and then. The good thing about climate change is the opposed effects of sea level rising and hot Earth. It's very easy to counteract that, because you don't just wake up one morning and you're sprinting away from a riverbed. It's like, fuck, it's coming for me, the water. So every day you wake up, every year you wake up going, that looks about a millimetre higher. That's not too hard, because the Dutch have been doing it for years. You have the Dutch everywhere you go to build fortifications around. That's all you do. But the planet, I would say to vegan, vegetarian, if you're doing it for animal moralities, I completely can somewhat understand you, unless you're one of those annoying ones that they need to,
It's part of the sentimental movement. And if you don't orbit around how I think, you're evil.
That's probably the worst one, because again, those people tend not to be Christians. And it's ironic, because when it comes to the Christian debate, like, well, I don't want it shoved down my throat. Like, but you're doing you. I mean, you have to appreciate that to some degree, a lot of vegans, it is a kind of cult religion. Same as the environmentalists. It is a kind of religion because your main ideology and deity is surrounded by this one thing, which is not too far of a religion. And it's just, I find it just a wee bit ironic that, you would kind of consider it. I don't want to ram down my throat. I'm going, really? You ram this one thing down everyone's throat? I can't scroll past Facebook without seeing a sponsored post. I'm getting loaded, man, because I'm tagging you on all of them.
Yeah, I know.
See the many vegan posts I'm getting now, and it's like, they're pig shit dumb. Yeah. I mean, they're really dumb arguments. Sometimes I think the arguments have been done by an 8-year-old. And it's like, this isn't convincing anyone.
No.
And I think that's the main thing. It's your job, if you're a vegan and you care about the environment, or you're a environmentalist, your main job is to convince other people.
Yeah.
You don't kind of succeed or achieve in that when you're
belittling
them, patronize them, and then B,
demonize them for it.
Demonize them, yeah, that'll be good. But I would say also that your solution, well, A, you don't have any solutions, and B, any proposed solutions are just completely unattainable and would require people to severely change their life to a ridiculous extreme. They actually say that, see the Paris Accord, we have every year to say that we're going to make these efforts to reach net zero by 2050. They say if the green policies by the Biden administration and Paris Accord was implemented, it would cost the average American, it works out as, I think, $1,100 extra each year alone.
What?
And then if you implement the full green plan, I think it's like $11,000. Quite simply put, that no one would essentially be able to...
No. And let's see how on the high horse they would be then about, we'll conform to what I think. Okay. Yeah. You paying the 1,100 quid?
No, 100%. It would not be the case. No. And that's the problem is, right, and I've said this before about the whole environmentalism, regardless if you have a quarrel with the idea of climate change. Now, I know we're in a battlefield at the minute of name calling. You talk out against it, you're a climate denier. Or you're a conspiracist.
Look at this polar bear.
Oh, I know it's well. That was the famous photo of the polar bear, the one with you see it everywhere where it's really thin. It's on right. Yeah. What they don't tell you is at that region at the time that was around the summertime. It does have regions where the ice melts, large portions, and that polar bear that they photographed was an old polar bear. It was like, I think it was like 40 years age, and that's what polar bears look like come the end of their life. They get frail and they get skinny. Yeah. And it was also the period of time to which most of the ice melts in that region. Yeah. We know this anyway because if the majority of the Arctic looked like that, we'd be fucked.
Yeah.
It was one polar bear and a sea of ice and one wee platform. People was like, fuck, that's Arctic. It's like, if that was really like that, and the climate affected it that quick, we would be in heaps of trouble.
Yeah.
We'd be serious and heaps of trouble. So it is definitely the understanding behind it. Unfortunately, the doomsday pushes really doesn't help anyone. Telling people that the world's going to end, like AOC came into American politics. I know if you know, like, she's a Democrat, very dim. And she came out and said that the world's going to end in 12 years if we don't do something about climate change. I'm like, 12 years.
Where did you get that from?
Yeah, I know. The predictions have been going since the 60s. It's been loaded predictions. 60s predicted we've moved into an ice age. And then it came to around about the 70s, it never happened. It goes, no, there's global cooling coming up. Didn't happen. Then they changed to the global warming. There was about 3 more failed predictions. And now they've changed them to, to climate change. Now, the reason why they changed it from global warming is because we then, in the temperature gauge, there was a slight cooling happened. And they call it, there's a cooling, 1970s had a random cooling period for a few years. Which
I remember doing this in tech, sustainable development.
No one understands why. There's one in the 1920s as well. There was a warming in 1920 went up, and at that point we weren't pushing out enough CO2. They don't know why it happened. So there is a lot of sketchy data that unfortunately they don't have. So if you look at the previous records, some of which are not too stable, and the reason why that people would say to me right now, I'm going, you're not a scientist, you're not an environmentalist, mate. You see, the point is, though, if we get into the food fight of throwing studies at each other, and, the scientist said this, or 90% of the scientists, which is a debunked statistic, I can find someone that disagrees with you.
We can cherry pick.
Yeah, and I've went on to forums of actual field scientists employed to discuss these things, and I'll tell you right now, Sam, they're fighting like fuck with each other.
Yeah.
They are arguing with real, it's not like the media scientist that comes on and explains it in such like a real like primary school way. Climate is actually much more in depth than that. It actually includes about over 20 different fields of science. address climate. There's no such, see the idea of a climate scientist? That's just literally a journalist that looks at climate data. That's it.
Yeah.
It's given. But all the data that's collected, different groups, so you need oceanographers, you need soilologists, you need astrophysicists, you need biologists, physicists. And no one has a collective field expertise in all fields. No. You know, you have to collate data with all in different fields.
Just 20 people pit against each other.
That's it. Yeah. Econologists is another one you need, you know, because the climate is a very delicate and complex system. So it does require a lot of different field standards. And if you talk to a lot of the groups and hear what they're saying, they are arguing. Now, most of them agree the climate is changing, but it's the quarrel most of them have is how great of an effect humans do have on it, and really can we stop it? That's the main effect on it. The problem is with something like a big complex issue like climate change, I think the problem comes into it is that your idealistic idea of veganism, vegetarian probably isn't going to solve much in the realistic time.
In the big picture.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like it or not, climate change hurts poorer countries the worst, because as you adapt green policies, your utility goes up because there's no utility in green. And I work for an electricity company, and I can tell you now, that's the basic understanding of how energy works. Germany had it, they went green. Now they have situations, there's no utility in their prices, sky high. They have bits in the summer where they have rolling blackouts because they don't have enough batteries to store the energy. It's a mess. They've actually had to turn on the coal power plants again to deal with the demand. So there is an actual effect to adapting these policies, but it hurts the poor. And the problem with it hurts is the poor countries. You look at India and undeveloped countries, third world countries that are trying to reach up to the industrial age. How the West got there was burning fossil fuels. Yeah. It's very hard for a collective body like the UN to turn around and say, like the place like India going, I know you're trying to get the industrial age, but you're not allowed to use fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Oh, so the door's closed behind us. So all they care about is if you've got somewhere in Africa where they burn cotton for their fuel heat source. I was going to fucking well down until they started choking. They burned cow dung for their heating source, which is releases a lot of greenhouse gases. Yeah. It's one of actually the worst things to do. However, they don't have any heating or access to it in the first place. Yeah. Their GDP is below zero. It's shit. Yeah. They're poor. You're not going to get a family like that caring about recycling or the climate when their kid is cold and not eating. Yeah. The most realistic thing to do if you want to tackle the problem, even though I don't really believe there was a problem, but we can get into that in another episode, is to bring the GDP up the rest of the world. That's the first. That's actually probably the major solution. Yeah. Allow India to come up to the third world. Once you become like a Western country, you were saying earlier about it's Western concepts like veganism, vegetarianism. You're absolutely right. It's Western concepts. That's why we have so much time in our hands to piss around and think about issues like this. Yeah. The rest of the world doesn't, because they're surviving right now. They're worrying about trying to climb up. Most people in India are living on the streets or living in 7 people huddle in one shop in the back room. They're not there yet. Until they get to that point where they live comfortably, that's when you start to waste time and go, do you know what, I'm going to start caring about recycling. Yeah. I'm actually going to start worrying about my impact on the environment. Yeah. But until you're not living comfortably, it's not an option. And you can't expect Western countries just to change and adapt, and while the rest of the countries catching up. It's just disingenuous. It's not fair either. And that's my main. You know me, I have a real gripe with environmentalism, and I think that's the worst bit of veganism. Is their high horse with that, and I think it just. Do you know why, Sam? I'll tell you very clearly before we wrap it up, right? Because we have kids. It hurts them. Yeah, that's why. Because I do not want a quote unquote utopia that will hamstring my children in being able to fulfill their lives, where they can't drive the car they want, where they can't consume the certain foods they want to have not access. They can't leave certain local areas because there's maybe restrictions on your CO2 usage, and then you've got a credit system. It is a complete pod living poor existence, and that's why I don't want it, because I want my kids to actually have the freedoms that I essentially had, and to be able to fulfill their true potential and not worry about issues that may not or may not be present, that we're being argued about. And I do not want the rest of the world, the government, to put all their pennies that they've got a bucket of spending to do, and we go, we just need to get to this one problem. We have several problems right now. We have malnutrition in countries. We have real issues with starvation in countries. We have pandemics of HIV and stuff. in other countries that really need proper help. There are things that people are affected by right now.
Yeah.
Not something that you've had countless field predictions on. You can kind of appreciate why some people actually don't really go with your fear mongering anymore, because after a while it gets a wee bit stale and boring when you're told someone, I know we got it wrong then, but this time it's definitely right. Oh, by the way, it's gonna put up your electricity and gas bill at Mother's Mind, but don't worry, it's all in the allegiance to the Earth God. No, I don't actually. I don't think so.
No, 100%.
So is there anything else you want to say to that?
Just with,
You're probably sitting there going,
just as you throw the table.
Would he ever fuck up?
No. Like, I agree with what you're
crazy.
saying there. Like, to tie in that environmentalism with back to almost conservation. I said before, when I was in tech, we were studying like something my lecturer brought up just to get us all fighting amongst each other within the sustainable development chat was locals within Africa trying to feed their kids, but they're causing desertification because they're encroaching on the national parks. Protect the cheetahs, protect this, protect that. Westerners over here, like, that's all that matters. People don't matter, but as long as that animal's okay, well, so-and-so needs to feed his family and kids. He's moving his goats further and further onto national parks or whatever. Next thing, cheetahs are attacking him. He's wrecking the ground. He's doing this, he's doing that. But ultimately, does he really care? No, he needs to feed his 5 kids he's got. And those kids, they're not going to fanny about thinking, I want to be a vegan one day, I want to be this, I want to be that. It's like, shut up and help me cultivate this land.
Your baby brother is
But that was just something that reminded me that we were tying in that with conservation. How our mentality is, protect this, look after this, I'm helping the environment, eating this, blah, blah, blah.
Did that change your perspective, or would you say you already kind of had that because you grew up in a very rural, sort of family and way of life? So there must have been a wee bit in that in your.
It was kind of conflicted as well, but then you can't take the whole moral high ground because ultimately these people are poor. If these people are desperate, they're going to do whatever they have to do.
That's true.
Plus, we don't in countries like that. It sounds really calloused, but we don't mourn the way some places do, as in the baby dies, my baby dies, I go off and work. I go off work for a year. I can't cope with that. Whereas them, they're just like, no, you need to get pregnant again.
Get another one.
And they need the sun to help. They keep moving. And we can't comprehend that. We just just feel bad, but then at the same time we're just like, protect the zebras and this, that, next.
See, I remember you saying that to me before, and it did kind of strike a chord with me. I remember thinking about it very deeply and going, you think of the idea of going like, even though if they're a different culture than us, surely they have such a bond to the child to some degree, but there is different cultural perspectives on this that the Western country hasn't really been kind of exposed to. And I think there's an argument people don't like when you say things like some cultures are better than others, and they're like, what? You fucking me. No, hang on a minute. I can see that some cultures are better than others. I'll give you a simple example. Widow burning in India. They used to burn the widows when their husbands died, until obviously that was during the period of the British Empire, and then one of the it was one of the governors of the British Empire that goes over to India and sort of governs it. He said to the local authorities, he said, if you insist on doing, fulfilling your tradition of burning widows, and that is your culture, then I'd unfortunately have to assist in enforcing our tradition where we kill any man that hurts a woman, and widow burning was stopped overnight. And that was one main culture, and that's an example. Is some cultures are better than others because there's Eastern countries, like it or not, they don't treat their let's say minorities too well, and I don't think it's a conversation that some people are willing to have yet, but it's true, and that is a culture. I'm not saying our culture is fucking perfect, but the Western society is certainly that's why we have time to worry about environmentalism, vegetarianism, genders, because we have no immediate stresses. And I would argue that that's actually probably a worse thing, because I just look around in society today and I just see gluttony. I see people stuck in heads and phones. I see severely overweight people, and I can't help but thinking, going, how easy and stress-free does your life have to be that you can, like people say, we're all living poverty lines. Even the most poorest person in our Western country that would be in a quote-unquote poverty line still has access to a device that allows them to access every information known to man and has access to the internet, still has a greater choice than, you know, the King of France did when he used to get his servants to cook him 30 meals and he would decide at night what one he wanted. Because you can go into a store as a normal secretary or a normal retail worker and pick whatever food you want that night. Yeah. You're still better off and you're still severely overweight. Yeah. That is the ideal of gluttony. Yeah. And it's only the Western civilization that's unique that has those kind of sites. Yeah. That is the main eye-to-eye sight of gluttony and no stress. Yeah, if you can sit and overeat, and people say, "Oh no, that's just because junk food's cheaper than healthy food." I'm going to do a video on that at some point. That is bollocks. By the way, it's complete bollocks. It is complete shit. Yeah. I can go to Tesco, yes, I can get a 60p pizza, but I'll tell you this now, majority of overweight people are not eating 60p pizzas. Yeah. They're getting takeaways, or they're eating the £3 frozen pizzas that have a lot of shit in them. Do you know why? Because the 60p pizzas don't have much calories in them, that's why. Yeah. So there's no way you would get to that size consuming 60p pizzas. You're consuming the good fella fucking pizzas, that's why. So I'll leave it there. Is there anything else you want to say?
That reminds me of a lot of things that pop up on Facebook of some, like, you know, morbidly obese woman with about 17 kids going, I can't afford to feed myself.
I know. It's like,
how often does that pop on Facebook? And then it'll be something online, and then everyone's making fun then, and all the fatties are kicking off, and the people being like, well, it doesn't look like she's starving. And then you just go through the thread, you don't know what she's going through. It's a popcorn moment.
It's genetics. That's genetics. Not what to do. I'll tell you, there's been a lot of doctors came out recently and said that's genetics. I'm like, I don't care. I don't give a shit if you've got a doctorate in anything. Yeah. You're wrong. And I think we need in society need to be a bit more stern going, just because you're a doctor and apparently, you know, I can't comment or anything because you've got a doctorate in something. I can't really I can critique what your studies and findings are because I can read. I have the ability to read it. I can go, that's
eyesight and I can see.
That's bollocks. That's
it's like Richard Gervais going, I'm ill.
No, that's right. Yeah. I'm ill, Right, wrap it there. Right. Remember to do the common YouTube thing, which is really embarrassing to do, but remember to like and subscribe because it really helps the algorithms like this fucking thing. Like there's anyone going to be watching to like anyway. But so this is going to be a monthly thing anyway of podcasts. It'll be available on audio download soon, and
it'll get way more offensive.
A bit way more offensive, which will probably risk getting YouTube even if it gets banned anyway, because I still have the audio download anyway. So fuck YouTube if it is. Thanks for letting me use your platform, by the way, YouTube. I appreciate everything you do.
We love vegans.
We love vegans. Be sure to like and comment and subscribe. Until next time, thanks.